Everyone. How is everyone doing this Friday morning? Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. So, we're trying out a new platform right now, so I'm going to see how it goes and hopefully it goes well. And while we were waiting for our guests, we are going to talk about vision boards. So, talk briefly for a few minutes about vision boards. What is the purpose of a vision board? Many people call it dream board, goal board, whatever you call it. I call it vision board. And it's to keep in front of you your goals, your visions, what's important to you, what you're wanting to accomplish, you know. And so it's always right there. You're envisioning it. And it's in a central location, could also be in multiple locations. Like I have one in my bedroom, I have one in my office, I have a mini version on my phone. So there's several different ways to do vision boards, where to place them, what works for you. Several different materials. We can go into the whole thing on how to create a vision board. People put it on just 8.5 by 11 paper. They put it on different places on their wall. It might take up a whole wall. I've got mine in like a 3 foot by 4 foot picture frame. You could see the corner of it right here. It's about the same size as this one here. And so it's to show a visual representation of your goal. That's what a vision board is for. It's a visual representation of your goals, of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. Of your goals. And what is the purpose of a goal? For one of them, and using some of Bob Proctor's material, he talks about the A, B, and C type goals, and emphasis on the C type goal because that's where you grow. A type goal is something you've already done. You've already bought a car. You've already flown on an airplane. You've already cooked a meal. Whatever. You've already gone on this kind of vacation. B type goal is something you think you can do. Excuse me. If I do some overtime over the next couple weeks and I maybe pick up some side hustle over here for a few months, then I can do this, or then I can do that. But it's something you think you can do if things fall into place. C-type goal is something you've never done before or to that level, and it scares you. Like take a house. You might have bought let's call it a $100,000 house, and now someone proposes, or you're now looking at $5 million house. It's scaring the crap out of you. So that's where you go. You're going to figure it out, and we can go into that more. That's Neal. How we doing?
Good, brother. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Sorry, it took me a second. I haven't used Restream like this before, so I'm trying it out as we go on the fly. So
all good, brother. I love it. I love all these platforms that do this cool stuff now.
So heck yeah, it's amazing what you have access to, and that brings up a good thing I'm going to jump into. Then I'm jump into you. Sorry, but how often we underestimate some of the things we have access to right at our fingertips. You know, especially if they're free, we devalue them. Unfortunately, because of it's you get what you pay for kind of mentality that's been ingrained in us or whatever, but like Restream, like all these platforms and things, like all the apps and stuff we have on our phone, how often we overlook the value and what they can do for us because they are free. So I thought that was a good way. So Neal, thanks for taking the time to jump on. Take a minute if you will and just tell us who you are, what you're about.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Even the comment about the access to resources that we have, right? I in my work, I often talk about that. We need to recognize the resources that we have available to each other and be able to optimize them, which we could talk about a little bit in this podcast. But just to give everybody a little bit of background, I've become what I'd like to call a facilitator, not necessarily a coach. I have a lot of challenges with the kind of coaching industry as a whole and the kind of guru-ness of it. I'm more of an accountability partner, but Marine Corps veteran, done a bunch of cool corporate things in big corporate companies like Cushman and Wakefield, NBC, hedge funds, financial services stuff, data and tech stuff. Led a couple cool startups. Was at a company that I helped start that went public on stock exchange. Then raised a couple $100 million in startup money. Did some cool exit things, and then ultimately found that I really struggled with how men were operating in this world in the last couple of years, and I created an organization called Press Forward, which is an online men's community that has an accountability program. We also have an entrepreneur program, and we have a men's retreat weekend. And we've also gone down the path now of plant medicine and have some really great facilitators and work with people with PTSD and all kinds of trauma resolution. And then this year have now started the women's version of that. So we now run a women's embodiment and accountability group, and we run women's retreat weekends as well, so that folks can partake in plant medicine experiences and work on trauma and all the things that we work on. So that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. You've got quite a bit under your belt there.
Yeah, it's been a journey, and the goods and the bads, and I feel like I fundamentally, I love the fact that you have up here, passion, purpose, and possibilities with Neal Conlon, and I really think this whole purpose thing, I have a responsibility to take the things that I've learned over the past 20 years, that I've been an adult, 20 plus years, and share them with people, and that's what my purpose is.
I love that. So how do you take that responsibility? And we'll kind of encompass it all. How do you take that that passion and keep going? You started the group Press Forward. With your introduction, you listed I've done this, and I've done this. And they're phenomenal and stuff. How do you keep going when you get to the point where now what? I've done everything I've wanted to do or whatever. Now what?
Yeah, I think we're in this interesting time in the world where we actually have um, too much access and too much resources, and you can, as somebody with the right tools and background in this stuff, I can literally shit money tomorrow. And I say that from a place of empathy, really, because 2020 was a very challenging year for a lot of people. 2021 was even more challenging year for people, and 2022 is going to continue to be a challenging year for some people. Yet, in my life, 2020 was one of the best years of my life. 2021, even better. And I fully believe that 2022 will be even better, both financially, relationship, health wise, mentally, emotionally. Like literally, like my life couldn't have gotten better in those years. But I realized that that is a direct result of one, I'm very, very adaptable. And I think that as the world is changing, one of the biggest challenges that I think a lot of people go through is that the world is editing itself, race, creed, color, gender, business wise, and traditional success, external success, comes from being able to do the same thing over and over again and get a reward for it. And now that is really, really changing for people. How and the way that you become flexible with that really comes into internally, like internal mindfulness, internal gratitude, measuring joy, measuring how many hours you don't have to work in a day, measuring how many hours you get to spend with your children versus the guilt of feeling like you're away from them all the time. And it's a hard road because we all have this kind of script in our heads about how our lives are supposed to be shaped. And what I've learned over time and talk a lot about in our online community is that if you change that script, you can change the outcome.
I love that. And your story isn't over until it's over. You constantly could rewrite it, you could scratch it out, get some white out, constantly changing your story and your scenario. Your like you said, your chapter 2020 might have been crap. So start over and rewrite chapter 21 and 22.
Yeah.
So but I want to ask how do you become adaptable while at the same time being true to who you are. Not
Well,
trying to please everybody and go with the flow and, out of alignment with who you are.
well, I really appreciate this question, and what I have realized over time, the metaphor that I use to explain this is that when a human is born, there, well, I'll say it like this: if you think about you as a human, as a house, right? An adult version of you is this house. Now, in order for the house to be built, um, a piece of land was found, the ground, right? Which would be your parents' meeting. Then there's a foundation that is laid, right, with some cornerstones to it. Then there is a vision of like how the house is going to look, right? So aesthetically, right? Is it going to be a condo? Is it going to be a Tudor? Is it going to be a mansion? Right? And then as you're growing up through your teenage and 20s, this house is being built for you. And then at some point in your life, and many of us go through this, I went through this for probably like a decade. I couldn't figure it out because of my identity was mixed up with the military for a long time. Um, we become unhappy with the house that we have, and it becomes so the part of like staying true to yourself is very interesting way to explain it because aesthetically we think, well, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to change the house that I live in, right? Aesthetically, I'm going to get new couches, I'm going to cut my hair, I'm going to dress differently, and then I'll be a different person. And a lot of times we go through these different transitions and we think, well, I still feel the same thing. And what I've realized over time, and we talk a lot about in my online community, both with men and women, is that like you have to have the kind of tenacity or the strength and sometimes just outlast the newer and improved version of yourself just by sheer will. But sometimes you got to go into the basement, and sometimes you got to look at the old boxes, and you got to look at the family stuff, and you got to look at the behaviors, and from there, and you got to do a lot of self-reflection and introspection. This is why there's like a thing in the personal development space that people will go to personal development events. You know, whether it's Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, all these guys that do all these different personal development events, they will get this like nugget in their heads that makes them feel differently, and they're ready for change. They literally go home, pack up their bags, move across country, leave their partner, leave their kids, leave whatever, because there's these things that keep us from editing ourselves. And sometimes it's proximity to people, it's the environment that we're in, and it's the constant reminder of the patterns, which are our everyday. And a lot of times you just got to have the tenacity to be like, maybe I need to do that. Or maybe I need to be very clear in what I want, have a vision, do an audit, go back into the basement and see what it is. And really, that's why I've gone so deep into the world of plant medicine, because with one weekend of plant medicine, you can literally unpack, probably 10,000 hours of therapy in the span of one weekend.
It's like you said, it's overlooking those small things, going back to those basics. A lot of times, I'm in that process myself. I got to go to the basement and dig out those little boxes. Okay, what makes me me? You know, and then go through that, and sometimes I have to get out of my comfort zone and do things. Not necessarily bad things, but just random things that aren't normally me. Okay, nope, I don't want that. But it kind of a refresher, like you said, getting out of the norm and stuff. And sometimes it's I'm okay. I tried that once, but that's not who I am. Now I know I'm not this over here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like we went to SeaWorld not too long ago, and I went on a ride. I'm like, okay, that was great, but I'm good now. I know I'm not really fond of these kind of rides or whatever. And it kind of helps refine you, okay, but it gets you out of your norm and then makes you what what's the word I'm looking for? You know, see what's right in front of you.
Right. And I think I really appreciate that comment that you made, because like the way that I articulate this is I think that, you know, every single one of us, you, me, anybody listening to this, fundamentally, I believe that you are doing the best job that you can based on the tools and resources that you currently have available to you. We all do. And if you keep on recreating a feeling or recreating a scenario that doesn't serve you well, and feeling like there's something missing, um, we want to beat ourselves up and blame ourselves and say we could do better and say all these things. But what I boil it down to is you just need to get better tools and resources. And then you can do different things. Like that really is what it comes down to, right? Like you can sit there on a roof with a hammer and you can bang away at the nails, one by one, and be mad and exhausted and frustrated and sunburned. Or you can figure out metaphorically what the nail gun is that you need and go get a nail gun and be done in 30 minutes and be sitting on your couch afterwards. But some people, because they're used to they trust the hammer and feel like they have an ego about why they need to be the one working all day long, need to bang nails all day long so that they can feel successful. And I think that is an antiquated way of thinking.
Yeah, I use a similar example all the time in the financial industry that I'm with. You know, um, they're so used to, if they're digging a ditch, I use the analogy, they're digging a ditch to whatever, and they're using a shovel, but they're so used to that. That's what dad did, that's what grandpa did, that's what great grandpa did, that they don't realize there's a backhoe 10 feet away full of gas and a cold Pepsi.
Mhm.
Or maybe they realize it and like, nope, nope, can't do that. I know the shovel. So how do you get out of that? How do you take those blinders off and be open to picking up that nail gun or climbing in that backhoe?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. So, I mean, really, there's a couple different ways that we go through it. The quick, easy, practical, pragmatic way is one, you got to kind of do a personal audit of your life, right? You got to look at your health, look at your wealth, look at your mindset, and start to score those things on a scale of 1 to 10, right? You know, what is your health like? And right away, someone's going to go, it's a 7. Great. You got a starting point. Well, then you also got to define for yourself, what does a 10 look like? Because your 10 and my 10 might be totally different, right? And that's the first. Then you have to paint some kind of vision of what you want to move towards. The biggest problem I think people have is that we can look in the past so easily and look at all the things we don't have, and all the things that we thought we were going to have and we didn't have. But clearly, when I ask a lot of people, like, well, what's the vision? What are we heading towards? Right? And then there's just putting a practice in place every single day so that you can do that. Right? The crazy thing about this, I'll give you a really, really good clear example. Right? If you go on, I think the website's like www.ironmanworkouts.com or something like that. You can go on this website. It's a great website. Um, and they will teach you how in 6 months, if you follow their routine, you will be able to complete an Ironman. It'll literally say, tomorrow you start walking 20 minutes per day. In a couple days, you start jogging for 30 minutes. In a couple days after that, you jog a mile. In a couple days after that, you do 3 miles. And it will work you up with how much sleep, how much food to eat, what supplements to take, literally how much to swim, how much to bike. And if you follow this map to a T, you will be able to run an Ironman. And the hard part is for most people um, who want to make changes in their life, knowing what that map actually looks like is the challenge, because they're like, they don't have the tools and resources for it, right? This is why I'm so adamant about this idea that, like, if someone said, here's how you make $1 million in 90 days, or here's how you let go of your trauma, or here's how you make $300,000 a year, or here's how you become healthy, or here's how you have a happy day, and here's the blueprint is often the hard part. So lots of times we like to go through this audit. First, you got to do an audit on your life and see where the places are. Then we can build some purpose around, right, the things you want to work on. Because if you just wanted to lose weight because you want to look good, there's a whole different purpose involved in that. If you want to lose weight and be athletic because you want to be able to run around with your children as they get older, right? Two completely different things. And then the final piece of that is get an accountability partner. We all need someone to hold us accountable for the things that we say we're going to do. Like, people love to say the great cliche uh, meme of like iron sharpens iron, but I fully believe that you need somebody who's going to hold you accountable. You need a group of people, a coach, a mentor, whatever word you want to use around that. But otherwise, you just went to a personal development event, you heard a bunch of cool things, you try to take that back into your life, and then sooner or later, life gets in the way of life, and you're back where you were before, maybe even worse off because you kicked your own butt along the way as you got there.
Yeah, and that um, brings us back to another question I want to ask, and you kind of already answered it. Is how do you stop comparing your chapter 10 to someone else's chapter 20? Because it's so easy to do. Like, even even in the beginning when you were doing your introduction and listening to a few things, I'm like, oh, I'm not there yet. Oh, I'm not there yet. Excuse me. And it's so easy to fall into that trap. But you brought up some really good points with the find out what your starting point is, on that self audit, and find out your goal, and in the process of doing that, you'll find out, okay, he he's been on this journey for, let's use the Iron Man thing, then 6 months. Let's say Neal's been on that journey for 3 months. I'm just starting. Of course, he's going to be further ahead than I am. But we often overlook that I just started and he's 3 months into it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. This is why it comes down to having the right tools and resources, or at least acquiring tools and resources so you can figure out that they're the right ones or the wrong ones. Right. There was a period of time in my life where over 8 years, I had 6 jobs, all corporate jobs. And when I started that jobs, corporate job life, I was making $45,000 a year. When I left the last corporate job at the end of the 8 years, I think I was making like, I don't know, $225,000 a year. And I went to a recruiter and gave the recruiter my resume. And the recruiter was like, Neal, I don't think we can help you at all. You've been job hopping for 8 years. And I said, but I 8x'd my income during that time. Like if I had stayed at any of those jobs for longer than 2 years, I would have never been able to get those kinds of increases. And that was where it kind of tilted for me. Like it was one of the foundational things for me to realize that like this system that we operate in is not always made for us to win unless we want to win. And it really, and a big piece of me jumping from different industry and was really me having to find this purpose, like this what really gets me excited. And now in this stage of my life, what I can share openly is the only thing I care about. My purpose in life is for me to have full control of my time. I don't ever want to have to sell my time to anybody. Like that is just, and that is something for me. And so that is so strong within me. Whereas like some people will say, I think these are great purposes. It's my family. It's my wife is my purpose, to be a great part of my community. And those are all great purposes for people to have. But once you can really find a purpose that is like part of you internally, there's no competing with that, right? Because it becomes about your own self-love. It becomes about your own awareness of yourself. It becomes about recognizing your faults and being able to say, I'm going to work on those things for me. Right. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that these external belief systems of, I got to make money, I have to hustle. I've been there, done that. Got to work hard, play hard. Got to keep up with the Joneses. These are all just like false constructs that people can play in. But if it does not serve you well, and if you're not successful at them, they can also be so detrimental to your mental health, right? Which I now call your mental fitness, which is clearly what happened to people during 2020 and 21 and beyond, is that when those constructs were dismantled, people were left scrounging for whatever resources they could get after that. And this is going to continue for a couple more years. This is why I've become so fundamentally focused on really what Press Forward does is we improve people's mental fitness more than anything else.
That's awesome. And it's so important, again, going back to that self evaluation, self analysis, and finding what your purpose is, you know, um, and not what society's purpose is. My purpose is different than your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and if that involves, you working a 9 to 5 because your purpose is fulfilled there somehow, or maybe that 9 to 5 helps you fulfill your purpose over here, kudos, go for it. You know,
Yep.
your purpose is your purpose. It's not my purpose. It's not Instagram's purpose. It's not Facebook's purpose. You know, find your purpose and go for it. Really live that purpose, and then the material items, the money and stuff, if that's part of your purpose, will follow.
Yes.
If you're just chasing that dollar, you're not really in it to serve you, to fulfill your purpose. At least that's my feelings on it.
Yes, I completely agree with you that everybody's going to have different reasons and why they do the things they do and how they do them, right? Ultimately, what I've learned over the span of my life is it all comes down to you just being um, not beating yourself up of where you are in your life and recognizing that if you don't have everything that you want in your life or crave, it there's no reason to beat yourself up over it. You just got to get better tips, tools, and resources, right? If you don't, just to make it, if you are in the woods and you don't know how to create a fire, you would learn how to make a fire, right? If you don't understand how crypto or NFTs work in today's market, you just go learn you learn from somebody else. Um, about crypto and NFTs, and then you have a new tool which leads to new resources. This is just how it works. Um, but we've now gotten to this world of beating ourselves up or uh, choosing to call other people out or cancel other people because they're on their own version of the story. It's a very, very detrimental, conversation. Um, I am back to back on these calls today, so I have to hop now. But I'm grateful for having booked this time with you, or you booked this time with me, and would love to do more soon.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Real quick, if people wanted to reach out to you, where could they find you?
Yeah, appreciate the plugging. So my social media handles are at I am Neal Neal Conlon Conlon or www.nealconlon.com. I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Awesome. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it. Do what you need to do and keep being you.
Bye, brother.
Awesome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Again, shout out to Neil for taking the time and his inspiration, his motivation, excuse me, his advice, expertise. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. Appreciate you being here. Remember to go live your passion, fulfill your purpose, and explore those possibilities.